Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the H&H Connect platform today. We are excited to have with us Jill Wolcott. She'll be discussing body inclusion in the handcraft industry, why everybody wins. We're looking forward to a spirited discussion, and we hope you enjoy our roundtable. And we look forward to seeing you each month here on the H&H Connect platform. Thank you. And Jill, please take it away.
This is a subject that I am very passionate about and would love to get more people. So Darren will have the recording of this, and you can get the PowerPoints. Jamie's going to put that in the chat, a link to download that, and then he will add it to the H&H site. Okay, why am I not? Oh, there we go. Okay. And Jamie is my colleague, and she lives in Nova Scotia. I am in Seattle, Washington, and Jamie helps me work on grading and sizing in the knitwear industry. Somehow I ended up being an expert in sizing, and I shouldn't say somehow, I worked really hard at it. So I'm going to start with talking about why bodies are what they are and talk about the inclusion in the handcrafts industry, a little recap of the meeting we had at H&H, and then the results of our inclusion survey, and most importantly, where do we go from here? So I see there are people coming into the waiting room. Jamie, can you let them in? Okay. Okay, so what makes a body look like a body? Well, we all have basically the same makeup, and we get the bodies that were dealt by genetics and other factors. But we tend to favor certain things, and that's the rub. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I don't know why. Okay, so I call it the 4 components of us. It's genetics, environment, hormones, and inputs. And so genetics are something that we can't change. It's the roulette that we get from our parents. They got it from their parents, and it sometimes gives us beautiful redheaded children. But it does dictate a lot of things. And one of the things I found out recently is that they have now found that not only do we have a circadian clock, and we all know about that, but each cell in our body has its own clock, and sometimes it is triggered by the length of time it's been in existence. So it may be set to go on at, say, 12 when you start puberty, but now they're finding things can interrupt that clock, and it can start at 8 years old, and you get girls starting to menstruate that young. So right now we can't really change our genes. I always like to find somebody to blame, so blame your ancestors. The environment is also really key. And again, one of the things that I think we haven't done a lot of work on figuring out. And, just where you live. Did you grow up on a farm? Did you grow up in a city, a town? Access to healthcare, education, mentoring, all of these things impact how we grow as both mental and physical beings. And for many of us, there are other things like family life and relationships and social factors. And then we get to the thing for women, which is crucial, which is hormones, because we got these flowing through our bodies pretty heavily from the beginning of menstruation until menopause, and then we don't have them, and it all just and if you go through pregnancy, that impacts. We have no idea what long-term issues there are from birth control, from stress. We don't even fully understand what happens to the body through pregnancy. And my favorite thing to blame is chemicals. So I feel like that's had a huge impact on what our bodies look like these days. And then finally, there's the things that we put into our body. And we all put a lot of different things in. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. Some of them we can control, others we can't. I know that when I was young, I used to get 5.5 hours of sleep. Well, nobody would recommend that anymore. So to make a long story short, we all start out basically with the same stuff, and but we all end up as these very unique people. And that can be really problematic for people. So our uniqueness is a superpower, unless you tend to fall outside what society thinks is important. And try as we might, we do tend to favor ideals. And although it changes from culture to culture, society to society, and over time, we tend to hold long-term ideas about what the female form should look like. So these are just some pictures of the body from prehistoric to, I think that's a Rubens, and then when the idealized body changed in the 1920s and then shifted back to Marilyn Monroe, and today we have Beyonce. So it does change, but pretty much it's been mostly the same, I would say, since the early part of the 20th century. So we tend to cater to idealized bodies because we can standardize things. And, if you're making patterns or making clothing or doing things, it's just easier to default to what is standard. And we all tend to make the mistake of choosing what we know. And so we tend to continue some of the things. So when I first started putting a class together for H&H, last year, I put together this list of ways that we exclude people. And if you look at it, we're excluding everyone. Because you may have one or more of these things. And what really helped me here was to get out of, is somebody fat, or do they have a big butt, or do they have huge boobs, to this is really everybody. We are constantly excluding, and we should use sizing as a way to bring people in and not use it as a way to keep people out. And, we all have stories about walking into a shop and not feeling welcome, or going someplace and feeling like we are the outsider. And basically, those are never anybody's happy memories. So we need to change how we let people be seen, or how people are seen, not let them. And as makers, we actually have the power to make clothing. We have the power to make adjustments. Even if you aren't a maker, you can take things to someone to alter them. But we have to help people get to that place. So this is kind of where we are, or where I see it in the handcraft industry. So everybody wants to welcome everybody. I don't think there are very many who are purposefully trying to exclude. Um, but not very many people are ready to put the energy into actually making a change. And Jamie and I often talk about resistance to change, which we all have. It's just inherent. Um, and so we did a meetup in um, at H&H, and I'm going to tell you about that. But first, we were doing a little presentation in the Craft Industry Alliance booth, and I've been in the handcraft industry since 1994. I've been going to trade shows since 2001. And what I find is people are really happy to talk about inclusion or making changes, and absolutely no one wants to actually do it. It's super hard, and the path seems just overwhelmingly difficult. Um, but I'm 60, I will be 69 tomorrow. And I'm tired of waiting. I want to see things happen, or I just want to get over it so I can do something else. So I'm interested in how we can move the needle. And I guess we should change that to 2024 because we're practically there. Um, we all need to be invested in this, and we need to see this as not something that is impacting others, but something that as business people can impact our bottom line. And it's a place where we can actually expand our reach. And it's also a place where it's pretty easy to keep people out. So we did this meetup, and we had 18 people come, which was great. It was, the only problem was it was during the time the show floor was open at H&H, so we really didn't get anybody from the wholesale end of the business. But we had designers, educators, editors, and merchants who came. And I gave them a pitch, and then we shared ideas, and people put their ideas up on a board, and you could give ideas to other parts of the industry, which is sometimes easier. Um, but it was really productive, and I did ask that everybody be positive, and that we didn't talk about like how our lives have been negatively impacted. We just tried to think of things. So people posted ideas, and if you see arrows or marks at the top, it's somebody upvoted it. And so Jamie took all these pictures, and she then came back and put this together into a document, and we did an online recap. On my website, and on July 19th, apparently. So we presented the ideas, and so what we really came up with at the H&H meetup, or as a result of the inputs, is that collaboration is essential. That as a designer, I can't fix sizing. As an educator, I can't reach everybody because I need to make money off my classes, and not everybody can afford them. I don't always offer them at a time that's convenient to people. So we really looked at ways that we could take us out of our silos and work together. So resources and education seem to be the biggest barriers. And in fact, down to the point of like people saying that they needed some sort of signage or ways of feeling more included, like when they walked into a shop. And, you know, who would think that something that easy might be all you have to do? So we came up with lots of solutions. I'm just going to share a couple just to show you kind of what we were thinking of. So, and I'm in the yarn business, so although this is certainly applicable to other parts of the handcraft industry, I always say yarn. Um, so, a company wants to be inclusive, and designers need more resources to produce patterns that are body inclusive. So, one of the problems is just like, who do you take a picture of your sample garment on? How do you manage that? Well, photography can be a big cost. And like, I am often the model on my patterns because I work for free. And I feel like I am showing people that even old people can wear these things. But it's really because I work for free. And designers are often looking for ways to get a bigger bump from their work because there are hundreds of people trying to get people's eyes, and only the big guys get attention. Um, so here's another solution. A yarn shop wants to provide a pattern in a diverse range of sizing. Designer and the yarn company can work with that yarn shop to give that shop yarn to make samples and early access so that they can show things to their customers before it's saturated every place else. And then a big one that I'm aware of is that grading is a really, really hard. People do not understand how hard it is. And it's falling on designers to do the grading. And we are probably the least compensated, lowest compensated part of this industry. So can we work together to make grading classes available to people who need and want them, but can't afford what I charge? So here are some ideas we came up with. Supplier hires grading instructor to teach classes on their dime, and in return, they submit designs in a wide range of sizing to that supplier. A supplier selects the designs that they like. They work with those designers to produce their garments, and then they publish a collection of size inclusive patterns in their yarn. We have now stepped over out of 3 or 4 silos to try and make this happen. Okay, so how do we make this happen? One of the things that we thought was it would be really cool to have just like a board where you could say, I'm looking for a yarn company to support me. I need some help with X, Y, and Z. Maybe I just need yarn for 5 different garments, or I need test knit support, whatever it is. And also that a place where like a company could say, we're going to support X number of designers doing this. These are the requirements you can apply. So it wouldn't be like a call for designs. It would be specifically to collaboration. And then while I've been doing a lot of work, and Jamie and I have done innumerable PowerPoints and presentations, I can't do much to make this move. I am a business that is a micro business. I have big ideas, but I don't have a big wallet. And like I said, I'm 69. I have to start thinking about where I can put all my energy. So we need to get other people involved. And we had a meeting on Zoom earlier, I guess it was in September. And basically, everybody was like really happy to give me ideas of what I could do. And I don't really need ideas. I need help. We all need help to make this happen. Um, so we have to figure out how we can make this something that people want to participate in, that it becomes valuable to people to think like, I'm working doing my small part for sizing inclusion because it's something that matters to me. Um, so Jamie and I put together an abstract of these ideas. Jamie had her dad look through it. So as a businessman, so it was like written in the proper language and everything. And because everybody at our July meeting had been saying, well, if we just had something we could show people. And so Jamie and I did that. And I put up a survey where basically people could say, I think education is a good idea, or B, I think a collaborative space would be a good idea, or C, I like both. Um, so not a hard survey to take. And I believe the left hand is number of people who participated. I think we got 18 people altogether, um, which was a little discouraging. Um, and but it was August, blah blah blah. You tell yourself it'll be good. We can keep moving forward. Um, and so Darren offered me this space because he knows that I'm passionate and will talk to anybody about it. But I don't know how to get other people to feel passionate about this. I could improve, there are so many ways you can apparently improve a survey. But I'm kind of tired of being passionate by myself. And so I'm really looking for some help. And that's why we're here. And we would love your input. And that's all I have to say. Believe it or not, did I get through it in under 30 minutes? So first of all, you can turn on your mics if you want. And I'm trying to get back to Zoom. Okay, I'd love to hear some input. So if you have something to say, even if it's just, I came today because.
I can start if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
My name is Carol Hulls. I own a company called Ditto Form. We're based in Michigan, so our official name is Ditto Form and Michigan LLC. We make custom dress forms. So this is exactly what I do. I take a 3D scan using 3D scanning equipment. It's not special to bodies. It's a handheld. Whenever I talk about it, I do this with my hand because it's a handheld device. It kind of looks like a steamer. And I capture a person's image and then I 3D carve them out of foam so that they can have their own bodies. I'm just gonna turn this around for a second. There's a bunch of here behind me, right? So I do them for individuals who are making their own clothes or costumes. Usually, experience can range from beginner to experienced in that world, home sewers, cosplayers, all the way up to professionals. The professional seamstresses will get them for their clients so that they can body, so they can do repeat work. It's a high-end product, so it's not a for everyone, for everything sort of thing. I was aware of H&H from different forums that I participate in, and this particular subject obviously caught my attention because of what I do. But also in response to some of the things that you were saying, Jill, that this discussion is going on in a lot of places. I just don't,
Yeah.
they're talking to each other. The Home Sewists, the American Sewing Guild, they're talking about this.
Yeah.
Independent pattern designers, they're talking about this. Older pattern designers, newer pattern designers, they've all got a little take on it, and some of them are listening to each other and some of them aren't. In my world, when I talk about things, I don't say sizes. I make your body, you do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, is it a size 6? Is it a size 8? I don't know. Does it matter?
It so doesn't matter, but
And you
it's,
know, that the adjustments and the different things, all of these things, you know. So all the things, you know.
yeah.
My suggestion for expanding your audience would be to tap into people like me and some of the others probably listening that are involved in these other groups, you know, involved with American Sewing Guild, I'm involved with the Sewing Professionals, Costume Society of America, which is the academics, not Costume Hollywood, costume dress, things that people wear.
Right.
Historians, a lot of curators. I'm going to be involved in a panel next year about the subject. So with them, so it's all out there. We just need to find it. There's a lot of speakers that have written books, you know, The Body Is Not an
Yeah.
Apology. We love her.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. So it's out there.
Oh, yeah. I know it's out there. I'm really, I read as much as I possibly can. And it is very difficult to find who wants to hear your message. So I think Jamie got down all of your suggestions, and yeah, we will be doing that. But so can you just give me a ballpark for what it costs to to get a form made?
Sure. Our current retail price is just under $2,000.
Okay.
You know, 1975, but you know, just under 2,000.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
process, a lot of my overhead's kind of high because I try to meet people where they're at. So
Yeah.
I go to where people are rather than expecting them to come to the wonderful and great city of Detroit. A tourist
Yeah.
destination at the moment, unless you're into music or something like that. So, so I will go various places where I know there's enough customers. I was just in San Francisco. I'll be out in Seattle. I'm hoping to go to Atlanta by the end of the year. And I take
Yeah.
to
Cool.
sewing or cosplay events.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let me know when you're going to be in Seattle, because I'd love to come talk to you and see your product.
Absolutely.
And I mean, $2,000 is like not money that I'm going to spend, but it certainly, and I'm at the end of my career, but if I were 10 years younger, I would totally do it. And I so desperately want a dress form that isn't a standard size,
Yeah.
just like any size. But I'd love to have one that was big, because then I could really play with some of the things. Instead, I have to do it in my head.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Mhm.
Yeah. So very cool. Anybody
Yeah.
else? And
And I
very cool,
actually,
because
yeah,
who knew you did that?
yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah, is it okay if I ask you a couple questions too, Carol? You
Sure.
got me super curious. Okay, so with this whole topic, like essentially, it sounds like we're kind of on the same level in a way that we tend to be a little bit siloed, and the more we all talk together, the better off we're all going to be.
Right.
What kind of things would help you kind of expand the reach of your products and kind of, or even help use your products to promote body inclusion? Like, is there something like a bottleneck that you find that you wish you could overcome, maybe with the help of others in the industry?
The things that come to my mind aren't things that would necessarily increase my business, although they might tangentially. It would be, I'm just interested in this entire subject, that someone who has a measurement that is a certain number is described as big. Why? Health reasons notwithstanding, if you're comfortable in your skin and you're comfortable in your clothing, if you're comfortable in things you make, you're perfect. The concept of beautiful and perfect are things that people don't really readily embrace. So I just say you're you.
Yeah.
The
So
end.
you want to expand that message out as much as possible.
So,
You want
yeah,
an
I wanna be-
audience too.
I want to be part of that discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I do offer a product that helps people get there, yes, it is my business. And one of the challenges that I've had is reaching the people who really want this, because it is a high-end product. It's not something that, and it's individual, it's custom. It's not something I'm going to sell at Walmart or
Right.
or even at a high-end boutique. That's not my audience.
Yeah.
Love it.
Jamie is the
That's
queen
cool.
of questions. So
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm writing them all down though.
No
But it'd be so
problem.
cool to even have just a further conversation with you about all this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So who's next? Does anybody else want to chime in and say something?
Is there anything that like is particularly challenging in like your line of work when it comes to promoting inclusion? Like any bottlenecks you guys see?
And even if you could pipe in and say what part of the handcraft industry you're in.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask a question. I'll come from the ignorant side, so at least and then maybe you all can discuss. And for the folks that might watch this later, why do you think it's so difficult to get community engagement and to get retailers to say, hey, by thinking inclusively, you might sell a larger client base, or if you're making items that are needed in larger sizes, you might actually sell more material? Or why is it, what do you think the struggling part is to get people to kind of wake up and see that this is good for people and it's actually also possibly good for business? It's actually a win-win by just being willing to be open to it. But yet it's, as it listening to you and even as you see, like, it's a thing that everyone knows, but nobody will talk, no one talks about.
So part of it is the language. It's very hard to talk about this because it's loaded. The other thing that I've done a lot of research on is resistance to change. And apparently we want change, but we don't actually want to change. It's always for the other person. And I watch myself and see how I resist change. So I think that's a big thing. People, we tend to dig our heels in to where we are and what we know, regardless of how good the other possibility might be. And Dana, I noticed that you turned on your camera, so we would love to have you do that again and talk to us, especially if you have any thoughts about Darren's question, which I think is excellent.
We've got a message in our
Oh,
chat. This has been very interesting. My microphone isn't working. Okay, so if people want to put stuff in the chat too, no problem.
Yeah,
And
we'll
Carol
read it
said,
out.
yeah, Carol, you've got, fatigue, lots of discussion with no action items. And that's so true. That was a lot of why we were so excited about H&H, because we get so many people from so many kinds of handcrafts businesses under one roof. And we can actually have these conversations with all kinds of businesses, big and small, all aspects of the industry. Yeah, but when we were having this meetup, we wanted to focus on actionable steps, which is why we're so keen on, talking to people about, would a collaborations board help you? Would perhaps getting maybe some sponsorship, getting grading education, would that help you? Like, what kinds of things would genuinely help your business? Yeah, I don't know if you feel like that too, Carol, because it sounds like you're pretty in this industry. You're like hearing a lot of this conversation as well. Do you find you get a little bit of fatigue?
Whenever I'm involved with any committee, that happens, right? We discuss the issues and we outlay the problems and we identify the sources, and then we say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if,
Yeah.
but maybe we're waiting for somebody to ask us to do something rather than volunteering, because we're all overworked and underpaid and tired.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I
Have
think
people
that's
waiting for emails and waiting for invoices, and we have to
very
go
real.
on, so I think we're all those of us who are inclined to be joiners and active, we're overstretched. However, that being said, I think if we said to someone, hey, I see you're doing a panel at CSA on whatever, can you expand that and do it for fill in the blank, then
Yeah.
it's not a lot of extra work, because you're just repurposing information. There's your education, Jill. And so, yeah, as far as, the action items to change perceptions of the world about sizing, that's a slow burn. That's a slow burn. So
Yeah.
we just need to not let it die. We just need to not just accept that a size 6 in a Calvin Klein is different than a size 6 in an Anne Klein. We
Yeah.
gotta stop just accepting that. And I think there's standards groups that are working on things, and so
But the thing
moving.
is, and I had Jamie put a couple of books in the
Yes,
chat.
yes,
So
mhm.
Am I Normal is wonderful because it talks about standardization. And I wrote down on my notes, is it you or is it the jeans? And, we tend to take on, as women, we say, oh, it's me. I'm not the right size. When in reality, it's that you're not the customer for that particular pair of jeans. And it really isn't a judgment call. But it feels like a judgment call because your butt didn't fit in those jeans. And you wanted those jeans. And sometimes it's because they're the popular jeans, or you saw them in a magazine and they look great. But, women are so willing to take on responsibility for everything. So I'm going to read. So Dana Connell says, I am here wearing 2 hats today and my brain is thinking. I am an educator at Columbia College. We were so excited to see that, where we are very focused on body inclusivity and diversity in disability design. I'd like to share all of this with my colleagues who are the experts. I am not a designer. My other hat is a retail expert consultant working with handcraft stores who are looking for new ideas. And I think this is a perspective they should consider. Yes. Because it is all education. And I've put up the PowerPoint. You're welcome to grab the video and share it if you want me or Jamie to talk to your colleagues. I think that, if we could get some work at the store level, because at the store level, if a yarn shop or a fabric store says, I want to have more inclusive sizing, then their wholesalers are going to pay more attention. And the big problem that we have with shops is that they too are overworked and underpaid. And just getting their attention is difficult. So Nadine, what about you? I'm just going to call you out and see if you have anything to add, because I appreciate you coming and spending your time. And go ahead.
I work with Darren on the H&H show.
Oh, okay.
I'm part of the
Cool.
team.
Cool.
So,
And
but as
again,
someone who is not a size, I'm
Yeah.
always sensitive to size inclusivity. So I like what you have to say, and I will share. I'm not sure, the show was big and busy, and we had a gentleman who came to be part of our event, who was hard to miss. A gentleman, Maurice Green, who's also the crochet boss. and he spoke at our influencer event, and he was on the main stage for a bit. And when I was speaking to him initially to find out if he wanted to come to the show at all in conversation, we spoke for about 45 minutes, making sure he was comfortable with me, I'm comfortable with him. And at the end, I said, I'd like to invite you to be part of our show and come to the show and be on stage with us. And he said, I have no idea what I would talk about. And I said, okay, well, one, we've been speaking for 45 minutes and you have no idea who I am. And he said, okay. I said, and among many things we speak about is size inclusivity. And, I was just thinking about random things that I thought would, all the things that we spoke about. And that's something that's sensitive to me. And he said, well, I can talk about that. And I looked at him funny. And he said, okay, I am a tall guy. I used to be big and tall. I am, 6'6" and however much I am. I used to be a lot more. I used to be big and tall. Now I'm just tall. But even the size I am, I have a hard time finding clothing. So even now I can talk about size inclusivity. So I'm your guy. I'm like, well, okay. And I just love that everybody can have an issue, no matter who you are. It can be the size gloves that you wear, the size, whatever it is, there's something that makes you unique. And that's that makes you special. But that's what makes, inclusivity a challenging conversation for everyone. And I just thought it was so interesting to have a conversation with someone that I would never think would have that. And then also someone walking around, our event, that you would look at him and think, he's the crochet boss. I would never think that would be his moniker, which was also, and then you put a microphone in his hand and he was off to the races. So it was just really fun.
Yeah.
But
and I think that your point that we are all the other in some aspect is just so great, because we are. And we all think that we're the only, as my mother used to say, singled out for the torture. But in fact, we're torturing everybody. And we're all making judgments. We can't help but do that. And so it is a fraught conversation, but we can all speak to it. And, we've all had the experience of walking into a store where we did not feel welcome. And,
absolutely.
For whatever reason. And I used to teach a class on technical design at a fashion school. And so that's just all about the measurements to create garments. So surprisingly enough, many, many, many of the students had never measured themselves. I could not believe this because I had grown up sewing. So, I used to wear a tape measure around my neck all the time. So I would have everybody in the class measure their chest. And it didn't matter what their gender was or anything. Everybody measured their chest. And then you had to call out, I would say like 36, and people would raise their hand. And then 37, and people would raise their hand. And I use that as a way to point out that like all 36-inch chests are not the same. Yeah. And so there would almost always be some either small Asian guy or small gal with huge boobs who had the same measurement that I had. And I would say, I have this measurement because I've got a huge rib cage. It has nothing to do with my boobs. And so that's why I have problems finding things that fit. And, I also have no waistline. So all these things, but people would be amazed, like, really? You and Bianca have the same measurement? And, her back was like this wide. Mine is like that.
So started on that. I have 1,000 examples. Actually, I think 700 because I've done 700 bodies. I hate to interrupt. I have to jump off. I have to go get my niece from school. So, but this has been amazing. I sent you.
We will be in touch, and I will. I really appreciate you coming. And Nadine, thank you for speaking up as somebody who just has a body. Because that's so important. We've all got one. and why can't we just accept it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, I am on the education committee for CIA, so I'll be talking to them about
Good.
classes that I think should happen. I love the meetup opportunity, and also having gone to TNNA for years and years, I so appreciate the hard work that you guys put in to make it seem like it is a seamless production.